Hey everyone. So it's been a while since I've last posted anything on YouTube, but I've been kind of busy at work and I think it's starting to slow down now, so I'm going to be making my return. And today I decided to start getting into it and I played some games with Nora, very good player. So I picked random Civ and I got Kronos here and I am going to be up against his ISIS. So just in general, we both of us were talking about these games as well, and we do. I do feel that Atlantean has a little bit of an edge on Egyptian at the moment, but I do think that Egyptians are in a good spot as well. So I'm just going to speed this up right now. I'm just going to go over the game, kind of like journal it a little bit, and we can talk about it. So starting off, my game plan immediately is just I want to take that second TC. Kind of being aggro into Egyptians is a little bit hard because they get their towers for free, whereas other civilizations don't get that. The other thing is ISIS in general, and I'm just going to reveal all. ISIS gets the monument, which blocks off all of the god powers, so it's even harder to attack into Egyptian. And on top of that, you get the pharaoh for free and the priest for free, so they can just sit around their town center and just do damage from the perimeter, right? So if you're playing into an Egyptian player, usually you want to be a little bit careful about doing any type of aggro into their base. It's usually not going to work. Sometimes it can, but most of the time it's quite tough. Now, so my whole game plan is just to kind of take this town center, and then from that town center, I'm going to, while I'm trying to take that, I'm just going to do a little bit of distraction with my my Prometheans that are going to pop out very shortly. So you'll see that. He did a really nice wall with his houses right over here. So this is pretty good on his part. I wasn't able to do any damage, which you'll see. If you guys are doing the strategy that I'm doing with Kronos here, you want to shift 2 villagers onto the second town center ASAP. Put your manor down because this is going to speed up building production. And as soon as you advance to the next stage, what you want to do is you want to heroize these 2 villagers. So they're going to build faster and they're going to be a little bit safer because they're going to have some more HP. Okay, so I couldn't do any damage. If you can't do any damage, it's perfectly fine to just leave and don't push your luck, right? So don't lose units on unnecessarily unless you can actually make something happen with them. So I knew that these 2 were not going to accomplish much, and I took them back and I just put them on the defensive, which they actually did help quite a bit on the defensive end of things. So now the second town center is up. I'm going for mass citizen heroes. So another thing that you guys are going to notice is Prometheus gets this upgrade, which is Theft to Fire. So it's going to increase the rate that hero citizens gather resources and construct buildings. So what I did was, as soon as I advanced to the next stage, I put 4 oracles on. I put 1 oracle here, 1 oracle here, and then I just made an extra one somewhere. I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere. Oh, right here. So now I have 4 oracles, and I'm just trying to spam as many valors as I can onto my villagers so that I can get an economic advantage over the Egyptian player. If I'm looking at this from the Egyptian player's end, I think actually he should make a couple units, right? Some spearmen, some extra sphinxes, and he should try to pressure me a little bit. Because since I'm wasting my god powers, my valors on villagers, I won't have anything to really counter the sphinx. And it's kind of meta at the moment that Kronos kind of does this, so if he had a couple Raxes up and he had a couple Spearmen, he would have not been pushed back, number 1, and he could have potentially pushed me back here as well. So I think it's good as Egyptian to make a couple units early on and just see if you can do any damage, because you have such a good advantage when it comes to myth units because your monuments are going to gather you so much extra favor as opposed to the other civilizations. And your myth units, in my opinion, in H2 are a lot better than other myth units. Okay, so I'm rushing in Theft to Fire, which I already got, I believe. And now I'm trying to get to the next stage, because I want to spam out as many Contarius as possible. The reason why I like making Contarius is because they have the ability to move around the map a lot faster, and then they can control the map. So if your opponent isn't, if he's trying to be greedy, trying to gather resources from the external side, then you can kind of just raid them and just take them all out. So it puts a lot of pressure on your opponent, and you'd get a lot of map control with those units. So I just quickly get up as many as many Contarius as I possibly can. I want to start pushing in make him a little bit weary about moving around the map unnecessarily. And then from there on out, I can just change whatever I'm making and counter his units by that point on. If I was a little bit better here and I had like a couple extra Contarios with some extra heroes here, I could have probably stopped this position. So you can see that if you make a slight difference, even like a 5% difference in terms of your macro, you can actually just win games outright. Here, if I had like 5% extra units, a couple extra heroes, I could have just won this position and most likely just won the game right there. Now you can see that he's mixing in some camels. So if he's mixing in camels, you don't want to make too many Contarios at that point. So I started shifting into Arcus. Arcus generally do pretty well versus everything, so it's not like a bad unit to have, unless your opponent's making slingers, which usually Egyptian players don't make at that stage. And remember I was telling you guys that Contarios just put so much pressure on the map. So now I know that he's probably gathering hunt from somewhere. I went and I scouted a couple spots and I found 4 villagers here. So now, you know, the moment you get raided like this, you kind of get stressed out. And when you get stressed out, you make mistakes. And you can see that very shortly he's going to be making a mistake, which he's going to be wasting his ancestors right here. In my opinion, it wasn't a good use of his ancestors. He might have got a couple villagers here and there, a couple units, but Ancestors and Eclipse is such a strong combo that you kind of want to wait until you absolutely have to use it. Here it did almost nothing, so it was somewhat of a giant waste. And while that's happening, I still raided his base and I got a lot of villager kills. So once again, these guys are very, very useful in controlling the map, keeping your opponent, you know, a little bit off guard, making sure that he's careful when he moves around. And he's always in the back of his mind, he's like, okay, these Contarios can hit me from wherever. So he's very, very careful about that. That's why it's always good to have a couple of speedy units on the map. Don't let them die, keep them alive, and your opponent's always going to be, you know, thinking about them all game long. Alright, so at this point, you know, the Ancestors really didn't do much. You can see the population difference is pretty massive, 160 to 60. But you can see that he's going up to Mythic, which he's going up to Osiris. So now I know that he's going to be doing this because his army is not big. If you see your opponent's army and you're like, oh, that's a really small army, chances are he's going Mythic. And in this case, he was going Mythic. So what you want to do is you want to get ready to kind of push the position, because if he goes Mythic, he's dropping 2,400 resources into Mythic, right? So now he's going to have less army than you, so you want to get ready to go. You want to get whatever upgrades you need. If you need, most of the time you're going to need copper shields, so you can take up a little bit of extra, you can take a little bit of extra damage from the Migdol. But other than that, you just want to have a lot more units than him. You want to have a lot of production facilities so you can just spam out tons of units. And here we go, we're pushing in. And you can see right now, a little micro tip that I can give you guys is he changed the position of his army, so his camels were in the front here. What I did was, when I recognized that the camels were in the front and the catapultes of mine were in the back, I pulled all of these guys back, which you're going to see very shortly. Small little things like this actually make a huge difference. You can see now the catapultes are having a field day on these camels, right? So they're just getting slaughtered at this point. So you got to be very, very careful when sometimes these fights, they can swing really wildly if position doesn't favor you, right? So now he does have Osiris, but I'm not really too bothered by it. I'm just going to try to take out some villagers. I'm going to, you know, just target the Osiris as much as I can. And my goal is to take out the monument so I can deconstruct his Migdol at this point. But already, like, you can see that the game is already significantly in my favor, right? He has very few units, and he has my eco is much better too. So I can afford to lose a ton of units and be perfectly fine. Whereas he can't afford to lose a ton of units. He has to be very careful about what he loses at this point, or else I'm just going to completely snowball, which I already am at this point. I think he had some trouble garrisoning at this. I think he was some sort of bug. But at this point, even if he can garrison properly, I think the game is essentially over. The change that they made in the last patch, which I was telling you guys about, like Mythic should be more expensive. If he had an extra 400 resources worth, you know, of units or even a Migdol, I might not have been able to push that position, and he might have been perfectly fine. Small things like 400 extra resources can make a significant difference. 400 extra resources, having an extra Migdol here, he would have been okay maybe. Most likely he would have been fine if he had an extra Migdol here. So that's why I'm saying, like, the change to Mythic, even though people say that Egyptian is still going to do the same thing, which they did do in this game, you can see that I was able to actually push my advantage just because he was going Mythic and he had less resources in the bank. And at this point, you just want to zone him off resources. You don't want to push in too quickly, right? Just zone him from the peripheral. Make sure he's not getting any gold. You don't need to siege his base. You don't need to like try to kill him. Make sure he's not getting gold. Make sure he's not getting any... If you can stop him from getting wood and food and hunt and stuff like that, you should do that as well. And then what you want to do is just try to get Mythic Age, which I was trying to get right here. I think I had almost enough resources to get up, but that's what I was probably doing on the back end, right? So yeah, so that's the game. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm going to try to post a lot more going forward now that a lot of work is not as busy for me. It was year end for anyone who works in accounting and finance, so you know how tough that can be. You know, Chinese DLC is right around the corner, so we're going to have some great content for you there. And yeah, hopefully I can see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.